Who would win between the Straw Hat Pirate Luffy and the Soul Reaper Ichigo Kurosaki? In today's video, that's exactly what we'll find out. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe, and comment, and let's get started with the video. Now, for this video in particular, the first thing I'd like to mention is if Luffy can even see Ichigo, and the answer on if he can or not is entirely up to your opinion. But anyways, during Dressrosa, Usopp unlocks observation haki, and with it he is able to see people's spirits or souls. Now, if you believe that Luffy can also do this with his observation haki, then that's perfectly fine. But if you think this is exclusive to only Usopp, then that is also fine as well. While we've never seen Luffy being able to see people's spirits or souls, I do think it is acceptable because this is Usopp unlocking basic observation haki. And we do know for a fact that Luffy does indeed have basic observation haki, as stated in his Viver card and showings in the series. And I'll be saying Luffy can do this as well for the sake of making this versus battle fair. And with that being said, let's get into Luffy's scaling. Now, Luffy's scaling is pretty contentious because there are so many different ways you could try and scale and argue for him. Those scales I've covered for Luffy in my previous video of Luffy versus Boros and how I think the fight is actually a lot closer than you think. I'll link that video at the end of this video and in the description down below for those that like to see the different scaling between Luffy and Boros. But anyways, for this video, I'll be using large planetary Luffy, as I do think that this scaling of Luffy is a lot more valid and has better evidence supporting it than, for example, star level Luffy, which I just think is wrong in my opinion. I just don't agree with. But anyways, for large planetary, you can scale Luffy off of Old Whitebeard. Old Whitebeard was stated to be able to destroy the world. This was stated by Sengoku during Marineford and twice in the One Piece databook Deep Blue. The first statement says that Whitebeard can shake the entire planet with his double fruit, can shake the skies, and split the lands and seas. And the second one says how he can just flat out destroy the planet. And even in the One Piece Viver card encyclopedia, it notes how Whitebeard has an ability, aka his devil fruit, that is capable and strong enough to destroy the world. So already with the multitude of statements that I have presented, I do think that it's safe to say that Whitebeard should be planetary. And because the Yonko are all the 4 strongest pirates and are said to be relative to each other, because Kaido was a Yonko and Luffy was stated to have surpassed Kaido with his Gear 5 transformation, this means that Luffy is now relative to or stronger than Old Whitebeard, depending on which you'd like to use. Meaning Luffy now has planetary AP, and you can scale him to large planetary due to the One Piece world being said and shown multiple times to be much bigger than our own world, with things like Alabasta's River being 30 miles long or 50 kilometers long, or Marco talking about how there are between more than 100,000 to 20 million islands depending on which translation that you use. We know that the One Piece world is bigger than our own world, since it's been theorized that our world has around 900,000 islands. And if you take the 10 to 20 million translation into account, then this would help support large planetary as a safe estimate for the scaling. So Luffy can be scaled to around planetary or large planetary, whichever you'd prefer to use. And with his AP covered, let's talk about his speed. Now, in order to go over Luffy's speed, we have to talk about Kizaru, the Pacifistas, and Kuma, since these are all pretty important and common points of Luffy's speed scaling. Kizaru has been stated to be light itself. He can move at the speed of light, attack at the speed of light, and is called literal light itself. And as for the Pacifistas, these are cyborgs that were stated to have Kizaru's laser beams and have been shown using these as well. And we see at the start of post time skip, Luffy effortlessly dodging these lasers. And as for Kuma, when he fought Zoro at Thriller Bark during the pre-time skip, he used his pad cannon, which was stated to deflect the air at the speed of light. And so with all of this taken into account, along with Luffy gradually getting faster and taking into account his Gear 2nd, Gear 4th, and Gear 5th transformation, he should be around FTL to maybe FTL plus in terms of speed, depending on how you want to scale him. With that being said, let's talk about Luffy's hacks and abilities. Luffy has access to all forms of haki. He can use armament haki, which gives him both increased damage and provides armor for his body. He has observation haki, which allows him to sharply tune all 5 of his senses and can predict attacks. He also has Conqueror's haki, which allows one to incapacitate someone with their willpower if they're weaker than the user. He also has advanced armament haki, which allows him to bypass durability by attacking the inside of the opponent. Advanced observation haki, which allows him to see the future, and advanced conquerors, which allows him to attack a target without actually touching them. And Luffy can also access his gear transformations, Gear 2 being a speed amp, Gear 3 being a strength amp, and Gear 4, which has various different amps ranging from durability, speed, etc. And he has his Gear 5, which not only amps his stats across the board, but also allows Luffy to utilize his imagination to the utmost extent. With Gear 5, he can do all sorts of things, being only limited to his imagination, and is pretty powerful all things considered. But with Luffy now out of the way, let's talk about Ichigo and see how strong he is. Ichigo was able to battle against and damage Yuha, who, when he absorbed the Soul King and Mimihagi, was able to passively start to collapse the Serite, Soul Society, Hueco Mundo, and the Living World all at once. This was stated by Urahara, who is the smartest character in Bleach, smarter than Mayuri, smarter than Aizen, which he tells Urahara to his face that he's smarter, and was considered a war potential by Yuha for his resourcefulness, with Askin also saying that no matter how devious your plans are, Urahara will always be multiple steps ahead of you. So him saying this statement should be pretty valid. And this was also stated by Yuha himself, saying that the Soul Society, the Dangai, Hueco Mundo, and the Living World would all be destroyed. Now the thing to take note of is how he said everything connected to the Soul Society would be destroyed. This includes things like the Mukin, which is so big in size it tricks you into thinking that it's infinite, the Dangai, which is a tunnel that connects the Living World to the Soul Society and has its own space and time, the Garganta, which is a void that houses all of the different realms. Taking into account all of this, and again, depending on how you want to argue this feat, this can range from around multi-solar system level all the way to low multi-AP. Again, you can argue this however you like. This is just the average range that this feat should be in. And since Ichigo was able to damage Yuha during their fight, this should grant Ichigo this range of AP. And with his AP out of the way, let's get into his speed scaling. So when it comes to speed, you can just scale Ichigo being above Minos Grande, who can use light attacks named Seros, and Ichigo scaling above people who are dodging the light of Negacion, which again is literal light that Yamamoto says once envelops something or someone is already within another world. And taking into account Ichigo's Bankai, which is a speed amp, and is also said to not only emphasize speed, but is also a 5 to 10 times multiplier, this should help place Ichigo to FTO plus to possibly MFTO speeds due to his constant power-ups throughout the series and so forth. And now I'll go over Ichigo's abilities. Ichigo has many different abilities to go over, but his most notable ones are his Shikai and Bankai. His Bankai increasing his speed by a very significant margin. He has his Hollow Mass, which gives him another amp to his stats, and Mugetsu, which was not only described as the ultimate power, but the ultimate attack as well. And also has access to his full bring powers, which were awakened by some of the other captains, and was said to be more powerful than fake Katakura Town Ichigo. And he has his Horn of Salvation, which is a combination of all of his powers, and Ichigo is implied to be able to manipulate or change fate with this form. So he does have some form of fate manipulation with this as well. And with all of this being laid out, who would win if Luffy and Ichigo were to fight? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. Ichigo slams. Ichigo just has higher scaling and better hacks and abilities. He's also just much stronger and faster than Luffy. And with his various other transformations, it'd just be really just complete overkill. Luffy isn't on his level yet, and I hope many people know that. But I know some of you are going to disagree, and that's just the way it is, to be honest. But I do hope that you all enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and comment to let me know your thoughts and opinions. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.